It's March the 7th, and I'm out on a beautiful winter day, or what's left of winter. Spring is right around the corner, so I thought I'd better come out and try to find some snow to test out my DIY Pulk Sled. The design for my sled came from a website called skipulks.com. There you'll find a PDF file that you can open, and you'll see 11 different designs of Pulk sleds that the website owner, Ed Bufard, has done. Starting with a simple conduit sled, where you just run rope up through plastic conduit and fasten that to your belt, to the Premier sled design, which is the one that I used and modified a bit to come up with the sled that I've built. So let's stop and take a look at my sled, and I'll explain how I went about building it and some of the modifications that I had to make based on some of the materials that I couldn't get that were on Ed's original plan. So the Pulk consists of basically three pieces. The sled, obviously, which is hauled by the skier or the snowshoer using a rigid pole system. What the pole system does is allows you to maneuver the sled better than if it was just being towed by ropes. And if you're downhilling, of course the rigid poles keep the sled from running you over. And the poles are attached to a hip belt that's worn by the skier or snowshoer. The sled I used for my project is the Pelican Snow Trek 45, and I think it's going to be more than enough for what I want to do with it. Not a whole lot of work to do with the sled when you get it. You're going to build some brackets out of 1 1/4 inch channel. Or in our case, we couldn't find no channel, so we used a square aluminum tube. We cut one side off and made our own channel. You're also going to need about a 3 or 4 inch piece of aluminum underneath, and the brackets are held to the sled with 3 cap screws and 1 1/4 fender washers. And then the poles in the brackets are 5/16 hitch pins to hold the rigid poles to the sled. For the cargo straps, I just bought 1 inch webbing from MEC. I bought it in bulk along with some quick release buckles, and drilled some holes down through the sled to put the straps through. Okay, here's my poles. And again, this was another modification I had to make from the plans on the website. Plans called for a 1/2 inch fiberglass rod. Use was a 3/8 fiberglass chimney sweeping rod. It was one of the hardest jobs of the whole project, was to thread the fiberglass rod. But it can be done. You just need to use caution. The pole connects to the sled via the 5/16 hitch pin, as you can see. And on this end is a 5/16 ball joint, or rod end, I think, as they're known in the hydraulic industry. And you can see that it swivels on there and allows you. The poles are held to the hip belt using a 1/4 inch forged eye bolt. To connect everything together, of course, we needed to find a reducing coupling, since we were dealing with different size threads, and we couldn't find anything, so we made our own out of round aluminum stock. The fiberglass rods are epoxied in. You don't want to trust just the thread. And of course all the metal hardware, the forged eye bolt and the ball joint are double nutted, and they were Loctited in. The length of your poles is basically determined by whether you're going to be skiing with it or snowshoeing with it. I've kind of designed mine for both, even though I don't ski. You want to make sure that you leave enough length between you and your sled so that you don't hit the sled with the back of your ski or your snowshoes during your backstride. The hip belt that I found for my project was a replacement hip belt that I found at MEC for their Ibex line of backpacks. I had to do quite a bit of work with it. It had pockets on the outside that had to be removed, as well as I had to come up with a way to attach the webbing loops or ladders that I needed for attaching the rod. But I installed these two pieces of webbing here to serve as belt loops to pass a piece of 2-inch webbing that goes completely around the belt to the other side. But on that 2-inch piece of webbing is a series of 5 loops sewn using a piece of 1-inch webbing. And this gives me some adjustment to different spots on my hip to attach the poles. The poles are held in place with a carabiner, which I've just used a bit of narrow webbing to make a little bit of a leash so they don't get lost. To fasten your poles, with your eye bolts to your hip belt, you could just simply connect a carabiner between the two, but you can see that it would allow you to have quite a bit of slack between your pole and your belt. Better method for connecting it is to actually pass the webbing loop through the eye bolt and then pass your carabiner through the webbing so that it can't pull back through. Check out skipulks.com. Obviously there's going to be more detail there on edge plans than what I was able to give you here in this video. So there it is, guys. That's my Pulk Sled. It's been a project 2 years in the making. And unfortunately, for me, it was one of those things where I wasn't inspired until the season arrived. And by the time everything got done, the season was over. So, if you're going to make one in the off season, and it'll be ready for you come winter.